Hello, everyone. Welcome to a very special session. We're going to be having an informal conversation with, the representatives from the MUIF or the Masters Union Investment Fund, and just having a conversation with them over the next hour about what it is that attracted them to it, how they got in, like what they do there, and what the outcome has been till now. So for everyone, just to kind of lay out the message right now, I'll just get the conversation started, ask, say, 2, 3 questions, and then all of you guys can, chime in with your questions in the Q&A section or in the chat section. I'll be moderating the same. And again, once, like before, if there's any questions related to admissions or placements or something like that, we'd encourage you to keep them out of this session. And any questions related to, the MUIF or the three students over here and their experiences with it, we would encourage that to be asked with this session. Anyway, with that having been said, thanks Aditya, Tanuj, and Pooja for spending this Sunday evening with us. Maybe we can start with a quick round of introductions. All three are current cohorts, current members in the second cohort. So perhaps Aditya, we can start with you, then Tanuj, and then Pooja. Just a quick introduction.
Hello, everyone, and I hope everyone is keeping themselves safe. My name is Aditya. I've been born and brought up in Delhi. I have previously worked for almost 5 years in fintech and edtech, and I'm a current student at Masters Union, and I'm holding a leadership position as a trading manager, where our main aim is to have a small team and come up with quick trades where we try to exploit the market opportunities what we get.
Awesome. Tanuj?
Hi guys, my name is Tanuj. I'm a chartered accountant and with over 10 years of experience in assurance, strategy, as well as financial control. So I just in this cohort, I joined. I came I was there in Kuwait. So I wanted to establish myself in India. So I came and joined MU. And currently I'm chairman of Master Union Fund.
Awesome. And Pooja?
Hello everyone, good evening. Hope you all are doing well. I am a chartered accountant. I am based out of Aurangabad, Maharashtra. Post that I've worked for 4 years. Lastly, I was working with Ernst & Young in tax and regulatory services for 2.5 years. So I'm pursuing my postgraduate program from Masters Union and holding a position as a Chief Investment Officer at Masters Union Investment Fund.
That's great to know from everyone. And maybe I can get the conversation rolling and not really ask about the MUIF per such, but when you guys were looking at Masters Union for admission, do you think MUIF was a big factor or certainly a factor that attracted you towards the program? Maybe we can go ahead with Aditya.
Personally, I've been investing in markets since 2014, and that's something which I follow quite passionately. And when I saw that opportunity and saw that offer that as a student that you get to manage a whole fund and that was something really interesting that really intrigued me, not for just because of the amount, but because of the kind of responsibilities which were given to us as a completely anonymous fund which is completely managed by students. And plus, when you are managing a fund, it comes up with a lot of responsibility, right? Where you have to do your research correctly, you have to be completely diligent about how you're investing your money, and while you're doing your research, it empowers you to study, research, and all those stuff. So that was a very great offering. It was definitely something which I really considered, and honestly, I don't think there was any other college which allowed us to have some experience to what it takes to run a investment fund.
Got it. Tanuj, what about you? Did it factor in?
Yeah, it did because I'm a chartered accountant myself. I've never worked in that investment field. So of course, when we used to take decisions regarding investments, it was totally a different approach. But when it comes to managing investment fund, investing in equity or any other investment, so there's a different kind of approach or kind of you get to learn the hard skills basically. So you can go to YouTube, you can listen to various reasons of how to invest, what we should be taking care of. But when you are doing a particular job, then you learn a lot from it. And this is something which I always wanted to do since beginning of my career. But now is the opportunity when I'll be able to do all this stuff.
So it's like a hands-on experience is
Yeah,
what you're
and
trying to say.
I did not even apply for to be the president of any other club or
Hmm.
affairs, because I was focused. My objectives were clear that I want to have this hard skill, so I will go with MUIF itself.
Awesome, awesome. And Pooja?
So Masters Union Investment Fund was one of the biggest decision. I had to choose this tech focused school along with like learning technologies.
Hmm.
So I was investing previously like just for personal financing, and I was looking forward to learn and how investment fund can help me to gauge my career also over in that. So this has really changed the perspectives, how I look for the investments currently, and also the mentor assistance and other things are available, which we can definitely take
Right.
help of and think of in a bigger sense at MU.
I'll add on what Pooja has said. See, we used to invest in markets or these things, but to have a different or to have a learned approach, basically how to
Hmm.
make investments. So that's what we get to learn here. And even forget about, say, I'm not looking a career in investments, but still it will give me enough skills to manage my own investments. So that
Right.
is something like that's something great when you are working with MUIF.
That's fantastic. As you know, I think the common theme that's coming out here is again the hard skill is, as well as Pooja had mentioned the aspect of mentorship, which we'll surely kind of talk about coming up. But before that, I'd just like to kind of move the conversation to actually, getting into the MUIF, fund and getting selected. And this is obviously, I think, a question that I can foresee that will be asked by the audience. And to the audience, by the way, do go ahead and start asking your questions. If you have any questions, please start asking them. But yeah, this is a question that I can foresee is that, people are coming in from various backgrounds to
Yeah.
Masters Union, engineers, people from data science, analytics backgrounds, as well as, more economics, commerce, etc. And, from the entire sphere. So being a, tech oriented business school, how do you think about structuring the MUIF team to have, enough diversity of skill sets so that you have different people who can use their strengths to help you in that specific aspect? So, Tanuj, maybe you would like to kind of start with the.
Yeah, as I said, like, see, me and Pooja are chartered accountants, so we are from that particular background where who understands finance. But it's not just limited to us. We really have a very diverse team, even full cohort. So if we talk about Aditya, he's from liberal arts background. We
Hmm.
have engineers with us. One is
Hmm.
mechanical from electrical, and one is a fresher BBA. So
Hmm.
it's limited to that. Only people who are aware of finance functions, only
Right.
they can. So it depends on your approach towards what you are doing or how you are evaluating an investment. Then you are interviewed on that aspect, and then on that basis only you are selected.
Got it. Got it. I think you inadvertently asked a question that Adar had asked about, which kind of, if you check if they've had some previous skills or experiences. But I think the questions have started rolling in, so we can kind of orient ourselves towards there. So, okay, so you've, all interviewed for the MUIF, you've been selected, you've had your first couple of meetings. I guess we can get to Satyan's question about, she's keen to know, or he's keen to know, which asset classes does MUIF invest in?
Before we jump into what kind of assets we invest in, I just want to highlight that this is this MUIF fund is one of the most competitive space where I think almost everyone applies for it because it's a
Hmm.
very lucrative, it's a very resourceful, very informative, very knowledgeable kind of a space where
Hmm.
you get to be interacting with top hedge fund managers,
Right.
industry veterans, where you have your own WhatsApp groups, you interact. So it's a very thoughtful and a very kind of a needed kind of a space where everyone is aiming for. However, to get into it, so the process is, at least for us, it was quite rigorous. We went through intense rounds of questions,
Hmm.
and personally, what I felt that uh, the team who interviewed us, they were not focusing on whether you know about markets or not. The
Yes.
main aspect what they were looking at, that how hungry are you to learn, you
Right.
know how much eagerness do you have, what kind of passion do you have, and what kind of vision do you have for this fund. Not
Hmm.
necessarily that whether you know fundamental analysis, technical analysis, or quant, but how
Hmm.
do you come together as a team and take this fund to a different level altogether. Hence, the diversity which brings in there, where there are people who come from a completely marketing background, and for them it's a very different learning altogether.
Of
Learning from
course.
from Tanuj, from Pooja, that how analysis is done. What kind of aspects do you look for? How do you analyze an economy? How do you come down to a sector? Within that sector, how do you come to a stock? And then how do you come and buy a stock at that specific price? That's a full journey. And it's a very tedious, rigorous journey where everyone come together and pitch in. So that is
Got it.
something which is, which is really, which is the process of getting in is very, very competitive, and it's rewarding.
No, I would agree. I think the interview process, as well as kind of the scope of responsibility, is as such that they'd
Yes,
want people who are, very motivated and driven. And as Tanuj had also alluded to before, we get a diversity of people from a diversity of backgrounds as well.
correct.
But maybe I could take Adar's question that's come onto the chat in terms of, say, is this taught? Do people learn how to kind of look at this, even if they're not a part of Masters Union Investment Fund? I'm sure that the reports and results that you have also are announced to the cohort, and your kind of insights that you gather are also kind of shared amongst your peers. I can see a very good culture of peer learning, especially amongst the MUIF team that exists.
In this aspect, we have a team of mentors who are seasoned professionals in their own industry, on particular domain. So we have access to those mentors. Then we have access to our professors who are there, who can teach us. And it's like, when you're actually on the job, when a responsibility is given to you, because consider myself, I was not doing investments prior to 1 year. So in these 2-3 months, I have dived into fundamental analysis and technical analysis, but too much that I have started learning. I started enjoying those stuff. Now, each of our manifesto, whether it was me, Pooja, Aditya, or other team members, in each of our manifesto, we had this point that even if people who are not in MUIF, we sure that whatever investments we are making, or the process of investments, will try to impart that particular knowledge to other people also who are willing to learn investments but could not MUIF. So that is the bond we as a cohort we share, and that's a responsibility. Okay, maybe just there were a few marks or few points due to which someone was selected in MUIF, but yes, others should also get that knowledge.
No, 100% agreed. I guess the peer learning culture is something that, is very, very strong here. And I think that's testified not just by the MUIF, but every other club, whether it's fintech or consulting club or any events that they're holding. It seems to be a batch-wide kind of knowledge distribution that happens. So, I mean, maybe now let's get into the meat and bones of the discussion in terms of kind of can one of you kind of talk about what the MUIF does in terms of what kind of different asset classes maybe or maybe the investment philosophy before of that?
The MUIF has given a 5 crore rupee of fund to manage the funds entirely by the students. It is totally decided by the students where they can invest and how they can invest. We have set up an internal processes for that, so that the decision should not be just go by one hand. And that's how we have decided this internal procedures for those. And in asset classes as well, we have currently invested in digital assets like cryptocurrencies. We have currently also invested in equity market. So if for equity as also, we do both trading and as well as a long term investment. For also we do invest in startups. So we also deal with angel investors and venture capitalists, wherein we assess on a regular basis which startup to invest and which startup to not invest. And we are also looking for we are also open for other asset classes like investing in foreign US stocks, and also distress assets that are under pipeline as of now. But totally the asset classes are totally entirely depends on the student, how they can manage, how they can take it forward.
Great. I mean,
I think
just to say it's entirely student run, right? Yeah, go ahead, Aditya.
I think the philosophy of MUIF is aligned to Masters Union, that it's all about diversification.
Right.
Right. You don't want to be concentrated at any given specific asset, because there are so many new things that are happening. And when we are open to such kind of conversations where, where we are sitting at a table where, founders are coming and pitching their ideas. So not necessarily that whether we have to invest in that company or not, but just being at a founder's call or investor's call,
Right.
you get to learn so much about, what new things are happening in the industry. And then, whoever is attending those calls, they give a whole brief to the team, and then collectively we decide whether we want to go ahead with the investment or not. But again, coming back to the point that the philosophy is more about diversification and extracting as much juice as we can. It's always up to you, to the individual.
Yeah, the main objective of the fund is to gain or learn hands-on experience on the investment front entirely. So be it any asset class or like anything into it.
Right. It's an applied learning experience, right?
Yeah.
It's not a company that we're creating, trying to kind of, bolster through. But maybe one of you could also answer this question. How much time, you guys have been recently elected, but how much time does it take in a week? Does it not hamper your performance in other areas? Is what Ashwin has asked.
I think the time, how much time you give, again, it depends on individual. Personally, like if I'm extremely passionate about it, when I'm, studying and researching about stocks, it does not come as a work to me, because that is inherently I am, motivated to do it. So to give you an answer, I'll probably spend around 4 to 5 hours a week, where we are just dedicated to this specific work,
Right.
where not just the research, there are other stuff, other responsibilities, for which we are accountable for, that needs to be done. And this time will vary from person to person as well as from position to position.
Got it. And I think that kind of answers most of the questions people have asked about, dealing in different asset classes. People have asked about the investment fund philosophy as well. But perhaps Tanuj, you could take, this question over here.
Yeah.
Let's say you have a particular budget. What if you fail to gain profits or fall in losses in the market, as it was mentioned, as it was real money? So I'm assuming this person is asking about the consequences.
Yeah, I mean, see, profit is ours, loss is ours. So it's not like somebody is going to now whack us for getting his losses. But yes, of course, see, we have to do our job diligently. So as we said, when we are going through an investment process, so have we followed through like all the like right analysis while we are doing investment or not? If there is a gross negligence, then of course people are like bound to take action or something.
Right.
But it's not like somebody has given us 5 crore and we have to just invest somewhere. No, it's our money. Like say, then only we will learn. No, otherwise, what is the point of investing it ourselves?
Right.
If we will like it's our money, then only there will be a knowledge, otherwise it won't be. So yes, no, we are accountable, we are custodian of that money, but we follow due process while investing.
Got it.
And yes, market nobody can control market.
Yeah.
Adding on to Tanuj's point, I think it's more about the process which we follow. So there's an input, then there's a processing, and then the output comes, right? If we are expecting a good output, the process of going through the input and processing the data has to be really good. That comes along, how well did we research about the stock or the industry,
Right.
and then how did we influence, how did we manage to get a full majority to take that decision. That would lead to an output. Now there are chances, because it's a full diverse set of people who are not very well experienced in markets. Mistakes are bound to happen, right? Mistakes are bound to happen, and that is not something we see them as mistakes. It's more about the learning. What did we learn? Where did we go wrong, which brought us at as a output where probably we booked a loss, which is fine. Not every time you necessarily have to be right, but again, it's more about the intent, that how you deep dive into it, what do you extract out of it, how much learning do you come along with. That's a more valuable insight rather than the profit.
Experience is what the Masters Union Investment Fund, kind of is. So Pooja, I think another question I could direct to you is something that Mutiala has asked, that she says that you had mentioned that MUIF does invest in startups as well. It has an angel investor kind of network. I would like to know if you invest in outside college startups or only MU student startups, is what she's asked. So I guess it's pretty much up to the students, right? It's a student run a fund, but yeah, go ahead, Pooja.
In startups we currently invest, we have already invested in 4 startups, and those all are other than MU startups which are like invested by. So we also have a private uh, you can say angel investor with which we work currently, and through them whatever the VCs whatever the startups come, we invest go through that. As of now, we
Got it.
also are open to other options as well, but as of now we are following that route.
Got it. So maybe Tanuj, I could ask you this question. Someone's talked about the expected return of the fund and how frequently you assess your performance. So maybe you could talk about that aspect as well.
See, everybody tries to maximize the investment return. So it's not like we can, but yes, our target is to maintain 30 to 40% of IRR, 30, not 40, at least 30 to 35%. That is our target. So yes, nobody knows where does the tide turns, but yes, that has been our motive whenever we are investing somewhere.
Got it. I think another question is kind of rolled in, asking about kind of the short term or long term goal for or annual target, or maybe you could expand more on that as well.
Short term and long term, again, see, whenever we are investing, like Aditya is leading a trading team, so they want to make profits out of the market momentum. So maybe they 2 3 months or 4 months or maybe 15 days, like that. Their main target is that. But yes, all the reports when others are like submitting, so they thoroughly check and provide that, okay, the long term strategy or it's a short term strategy. So based on that only, your exit price, your entry price, it all matters.
Right.
So like last time we made one analysis of one particular stock, and our strategy was that within 1 year or 8 months we should be exiting from this stock after getting this price.
Got it.
And adding on to Tanuj's point in terms of assessment, see, what we are doing right now is going to be a legacy, right? Legacy of Masters Union, right? And for us to create processes and systems which other batches, following batches will take over, it has to be extremely to the point, very crisp, and ensuring that there is no bias in front of anyone, right? Even if I'm a trading team manager and Tanuj being a president, we do not come with a specific power that we can overturn the majority of the decisions. It's about the whole team who's coming in and taking it forward. So the assessment happens very, very, I think the assessment goes every month, if I'm not wrong, Pooja. And it's the processes which we are building. Of course, there are, we are not investment managers, right? We are learning to become investment managers. So our experience is getting used to, to ensure that those processes you get even better, so that we can scale up from here as well. And it's the transfer of knowledge becomes easier for everyone.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, again, it's more about giving back than actually making profit. So I think one question someone's asked in the Q&A section, asking about if startups need to be innovative to be invested in. I think, again, as we mentioned before, it's student run. So it's up to the students on where they want to invest the money. And as they mentioned, there are these startups that they've invested in are not Masters Union startups. They had found from our first cohort, they had found that, different funding. And maybe now, Pooja, I can orient the next question towards you, because people have asked about if MUIF invests in crypto, if it invests in derivatives. And so maybe, you could once again summarize the different asset classes that MUIF is currently looking at, and maybe where you kind of plan to go after that.
Like I previously discussed, I'll just highlight briefly again that we have currently invested in equity. So in equity, we also have a trading team wherein we take our short-term oriented decisions to invest in the asset classes. And for we have also invested in digital assets like cryptocurrencies. One question has been asked on that. We also have invested in startups. Currently, we have invested in 4 startups, and we regularly on a day-to-day basis we check through which startup we should invest in. Also, we have invested in mutual fund currently. We are looking forward to invest in US stocks. Also, we are we have done previously bit investments in derivatives and options, futures and options, but we are also looking forward to invest more time on that so that we can learn. And these are the major points currently which we are thinking.
So yeah, questions are quite rapidly rolling in. If any of you want to kind of start, Tanuj, any question of your fancy that you feel that you want to answer that's come in on the chat till now?
I can take one question about algo trading.
Sure, go ahead.
This question was asked by Jay that are any technologies leveraged by MUIF for trading, like algo trading? So Jay, as of right now, we are not into algo trading, but currently we are actually working on to build up a model which will help us, to get into the space of algo trading. It's gonna be a proprietary, model for us, and we're still backtesting it. We're still in the process of, optimizing it to the best level. But yes, soon it's gonna be, we're gonna launch that.
Got it. Tanuj, any questions strike your fancy?
Yeah, like somebody was asking that like whether we can increase this 5 crore amount or not. If all the assets where we have invested, they are regularly giving us profits, and we have completely exhausted our 5 crore, then of course we will try to take it to a bit more upper limit. There is no limitation from the management. This is a particular point. If the fund is performing well, if providing is good returns, then of course everybody would like to increase their money share, and management would also be happy to do that.
Yeah, I can pretty much testify that. Go ahead, Pooja.
I'll take up this question. This has been asked for startup investing. Most startups are not profitable in initial few years. How we evaluate a startup? We also attend a founders call and also attend a investor call. So founder calls, we also obviously see many other things like if the whether management is strong, what is their confidence, in which industry they are going in, how the industry will be performing, how the idea exactly it is, what is the current results they have shown, whether that is appealable, and also the due diligence which is happened through angel investor firms or VC firms. We also take that into consideration and get our queries resolved through those things. So that's how we look forward and pitch for check for startup investments.
Got it. So another question, I think it's come up a couple of times, is about how exactly the mentors help out in terms of helping the team to make strategic decisions. Of course, Pooja just mentioned that they attend calls and the founder calls as well. But Tanuj, maybe you could expand on the mentorship aspect at the MUIF that currently exists.
See, like we have 6 mentors, and from each of the field, from capital market to digital assets, and we have access to them personally. Like we have their phone numbers, their email IDs. So recently, also we have scheduled with them a call, maybe in the coming week, to discuss about our team, because we just got into recently. So what the earlier cohort, or how the help was there, that even when it came to like preparing the charter of investments, so they were getting the guidance, what things should be included in the charter, so that you can have a definite process for investment, even when analyzing whether it is technical or fundamental. So we can make a report, we can show it to our mentors, and they can provide us guidelines that okay, is this like the reports which we are making, do they contain enough meat, or we need to study something more? So it's like working in a professional world, that you are working on something and your boss is guiding you what to do and what not to.
Got it.
In that way, like it's really helpful when it comes to mentor.
And I assume that that mentorship plus peer learning, it creates a culture where everyone is very kind of driven and motivated to kind of perform to their best as well.
I'll just give you one more example. Like Aditya regularly does technical analysis, and we have WhatsApp group. So he analyzes those technical analysis and share in that group, and we ask like feedback from the mentors. So mentors sometime they say, okay, I have this perspective, and in if suppose our perspective is there, so they also tell us how we can refine that, and whether perspective is in sync with them, or that is also different. So this is how, like, what I'm trying to say is that there is a regular communication channel, so where we communicate and try to gain insights as much as we can.
Got it.
I think for me personally, because the kind of liquidity the market has right now, especially post COVID, it becomes very challenging for me where not to invest, because the kind of movements are happening in markets every day. Stocks are hitting circuits, and so it's a big challenge where I have to keep myself in control, that let's stop here and not invest here, because there any stock what I see, like I follow elite wave analysis, I'm a technical analyst. So for me, there are big pictures and there are small pictures, right? But when you are seeing the bigger picture and the kind of liquidity is there, and market is nowhere stopping, right? It is nowhere stopping. It hasn't stopped since 2020. It has continuously gone up and only up. And there are reports which states that this may or may not continue. But yes, it's very important where mentors come into the picture, because when we are seeing the market is going up, the greed comes into the picture, and that's where mentors come and they assign you and they help you to assess the market, assess what kind of risks are there, how we can probably hedge those risks in case the music stops. So I think that's where the mentorship really helps.
Got it. And Pooja, maybe what has been your experience with being in this team and having that kind of, let's say, mentorship plus peer learning experience?
So mentorship and peer learning is like far reachable. So I am from a finance background. I know that the number things I can gauge through those, but still there are many other different perspectives which I get to know while working with my peers, and also mentorship guidance. It's not necessarily in helping me into building my investment horizon by being into a Masters Union investment fund, but it also shaping me to a different perspectives, how I should look to a business, what perspectives I should look for.
Got it. And of course, I think it's a very unique kind of hands-on experience for any student in any kind of educational environment, regardless of whether it's, whatever kind of school it is, that it's student run. And the fact that is the emphasis on you guys to learn rather than for it to be a very well performing or high investing, even though that's the goal and you have your philosophies there, the culture of learning more, I think that's more important as well. I think, Aditya, maybe I could direct these two questions at you. Someone's asked about what the size of the MUIF team is, as well as someone just asking about what parameters maybe they would, as a general kind of answer, you could tell us what parameters they consider while investing.
I think I had some network issue. Just to get it correct, what kind of parameters do we consider while investing, right?
Right. So the last two questions on the chat. The first would be what's the
Correct.
size of the
Got
MUIF
it.
team? And then, yeah.
Size of our MUIF team is of 11 members, and the parameters what we consider, again, there are no set of specific parameters. It is completely from a person who is pitching that idea or pitching that stock, right? Obviously there are there are core fundamentals that whether that company is profitable, whether that company is what kind of net profits they are making, how are their sales improving, how much debt they have. So there are basic checks which we have, but it is more about that how deeply a person deep dives into that organization and conducts a research, and how does he present. So again, see it from a story, see it from a perspective where a person who probably does not have any experience in investing, he becomes a part of a MUIF fund. He gets to basic understanding what fundamental, what technical analysis is, and he's motivated. He goes and he researches about a company. He spends like almost a week, 10 days doing his research. So that is one part of the learning. The other part is presenting, right? How do you present and how do you sell your research? That's also an art. It is something where where you have to present in such a manner where anyone who's sitting there feels that this is great work, because at the end of the day there has to be a super majority for anyone to do to take the decision. So
Got it.
it's about more about the stories. Like recently, one of the person, member, I can't name the stock, but he came up with a stock which probably has is coming up with a very different background and with a very different context altogether, which I was not aware. Right, when I read about the company, maybe the fundamentals were not that attractive to me, but the kind of a new context, the new kind of business they are getting into, that blew my mind. Like I was like, wow, I wasn't aware about that. That company can leverage their ecosystem in such a manner where they can actually disrupt the industry. So it's completely dependent on the person. But obviously, there are a few fundamental basic checks which everyone goes through.
Got it. So maybe we could kind of, let's say, wind things down by talking more about the kind of takeaways or learnings that you've had. I know it's been it's not been so long, since you've been members of the MUIF. You've been recently elected, as I mentioned before. But as Aditya mentioned, maybe Tanuj and then Pooja, you could talk about it. Have there been experiences maybe with other members in the team, or maybe with the mentor that you've been speaking to, that you've kind of felt like this, oh, like I did not know about this now, this has kind of opened my eyes, or this is any aha moments that you feel that you had?
To me, I'm new to investing. Then I was aware of this fundamental. I was aware of balance sheet analysis, P&L analysis, but I was not aware that there are two kind of analysis. One is called fundamental, one is called technical. Later, I found out what I was doing, that is fundamental analysis, and technical analysis, something like where you are seeing the averages and different kind of candlestick patterns and different charts. So that was something like I found out, okay, maybe there is some another perspective and another way to like keep a tab on the market and do your investing. So that's something I really found interesting.
Awesome. And Pooja?
So I learned more about like crypto. I was not working any time before while investing in crypto. I had some bias. I had my own set of biases to not invest in crypto. But later on, like while discussing with my peers and also after going through many research, I definitely came to know that no, we can definitely look for the investment into it.
So another question is kind of rolled in. I'll direct it to you, Aditya. How the employment opportunities in VC, PE post MU, and if you have any masters from the VC industry who engage with the MUIF team while taking calls on investments. So in terms of internships and placements, I would definitely encourage everyone to check out our placement report as well as our internship report as well. We've definitely had students working with Antler as well. But yeah, maybe you could answer the second part of the question in terms of specifically people from a VC background engaging with the MUIF team.
We do have professors. We recently also had a boot camp, which was a very interesting boot camp, that how to raise funds, and that was led by one of the directors of a hedge fund, and he's also our mentor. So there are finance courses as part of their curriculum, but apart from that, there are different boot camps which happen, which obviously are open to anyone and everyone who's part of the MU community. Right? It is not just restricted to MUIF members, but it's open to the whole class, where people from VC industry, public markets, and people who are in the domain of investing, they come and they teach us about different aspects altogether. Like investing in public markets, it's very different from investing in private markets, right? There are different aspects altogether. There are different business models on which startups are running. The analysis is more done basis on what they're gonna do 3 or 5 years down the line. How do you assess that? What kind of technology they are into? How valuable that technology is? What kind of goodwill they are bringing in the markets? Those are very different metrics which a person uses while investing in a startup, and that's exactly what we do when we invest in a startup. And obviously, the intent is not to stay along with the startup for until they go for the IPO.
Right.
We are coming in angel rounds. We are coming in pre-series kind of rounds, and we'll probably start looking for exits when they start raising Series A, Series B, depending how comfortable we are, what kind of returns we have generated, because that's a huge scale, right? From angel A to Series A, Series B, that's a huge scale altogether.
Yeah.
While investing in public markets is very different. You see historical performances, so it's more about the perspective which you want to get into. It's about your own specific interest, and that allows us to have having sessions with all these VCs and public market experts allows us to understand that how investing is done, and not just investing is done. Probably that if I want to be an entrepreneur, what kind of things I should be looking at. I understand that what are the metrics an angel investor or VC firm is actually focusing on, that helps me to build my pitch deck or that helps me to prepare myself. So it's more about the key learnings, which and that varies from an individual to an individual, and what they're focusing at.
Got it. And I think that's a pretty in-depth answer in terms of both the philosophy, both the mentorship, and as well as kind of the best practices that you take away from these kind of places as well. And I guess, having that, as you mentioned, boot camp in your answer as well, is you see that angle of having theoretical knowledge, like in the classroom knowledge, as well as, something which is an applied MUIF, something where you have real money to invest in kind of real places. One aspect that maybe I would like to kind of touch upon, I don't think there are any more questions, but maybe one of the last few things that we can talk about is in in Masters Union in general, there's this kind of air of being proactive and going out and getting and kind of making those opportunities for yourself. And I assume the MUIF kind of selection process kind of being in the team, running the team would be, very same in terms of being proactive, taking time out of your day, and being, let's say, caring a lot about those kind of things. It's not really spoon fed because, as you know, in our cohort, we have mainly adults and, from diverse backgrounds. So that's something that maybe if you could talk about that culture at Masters Union about being proactive and stuff.
As I said, that like mentors are there, peers are there, for that particular like to learn. But a lot of things we have to do on our own as well, because when we created, suppose initially we created our investment thesis, so that is something we had never done before, and for that we had to watch YouTubes, we had to read so many articles to come up like what investment thesis should look like. And with each and every investment manager we have this approach, like everybody will prepare their report or thesis.
Yeah.
It's not like if suppose there one person has created one format, then everyone has to follow that. No, they should address basic objectives, and these is the thing which somebody has to see in that report. That will be done, whether it goes to startup, whether it goes to equity or whatever.
Got it. Maybe I can kind of close out the session by asking you one specific question that could be a takeaway for everyone in our audience. Aditya, you had something to say?
So there's one thing which has been mentioned by, I think, Achintya, in terms
Okay.
of that, what if somebody who does not come from a investing background, how much challenging does it become? How challenging is it for them to manage?
Right.
So Achintya, to answer to that question, I think anyone who has joined, the MUIF fund, their main intent is about learning, right? And especially you are at a B school where you're spending 16 months. So the learning curve, there is nothing more or less you're doing apart from either doing your projects or going through your pre-materials or going through your, coursework and all that stuff. So that's the only responsibility as a student what you have, right? So personally, I feel in our team member, nobody is, facing issues to manage their time, because there are people who come with a background from investing, so they can help. We can always guide them and can help them. And more importantly, it's the learning curve, because when you are here, the learning curve goes like straight up, because you're actually implementing each and everything with real money in terms of what you are learning, right? Let's say you are learning about finance, so you're using those concepts. When you're trying to invest, see it from a perspective that whatever you're taught in marketing, can you use those frameworks to adjust into a startup? That are they using those kind of concepts or not? So it's more of a practical learning. So the learning curve becomes really sharp, is what I feel. Like that is something which a lot of my folks who do not come from an investing background are experiencing. And even for me as well, like I do not have any prior experience in investing in private startups, but that's a very interesting space.
Got it.
So the last question is like whether being a fresher, they should have some knowledge about it. The Muskan has. So it's really not necessary that from which background you're coming. So the both things, business things and the tech things, both are taken care of in the school properly. So one may not be bothering about what background I'm coming from. Obviously, the evaluation criteria will be there, but apart from that, there is no such thing.
No such like background agnostic, right? Exactly like our admissions process, to be honest. But so yeah, kind of closing the session out, I think I can take a leap of faith and assume that, let's say, only a part of the audience over here is previous experience in finance and investments and stuff. So maybe Aditya, I can start with you. What are, say, the basics that say someone on the call should know, or in terms of getting into investments? Maybe top two, three things that you could recommend as takeaways for people on the call.
My first suggestion for anyone who does not come from an investing background and they become a member here: be open, be curious, and don't stop yourself from taking or experimenting or whatever you have learned by acting onto it. Don't let anyone don't just allow yourself to be as a spectator. Participate. Like the diversity is there for everyone to put their point, to learn, and to grow as an individual. So be selfish. Like if you think that something you're not understanding it, ask it again and again. Not necessarily that you have to disrupt the whole meeting, but if you're not understanding a concept, go to that person, talk to that person, and understand it. You have to be selfish. You have to look for your own interest in terms of that how your growth is happening, because things are moving very fast, right? And if you're there, you have to be proactive and not reactive.
Got
So
it.
three would be learning, be open, and participate and be selfish.
Got it. Tanuj, what about you in terms of, you said you're getting into investments for the first time. It's been a couple of months. What would you say would be a couple of things that people should focus on?
See, people who are like looking to learn investments or looking to be part of MUIF, I will suggest them to start studying how investments are done, the type of assets, how are they, how market functions like around them, so that when you join when you join MUIF, so you will be far ahead in terms of thinking, in terms of understanding about these things, and you will always start from up the ladder. So you will not have to spend so much time in understanding those stuff.
Got it. And Pooja, what about you?
So I
Honest?
would say come with a clean slate approach, like irrespective of what you were thinking and how you were managing your personal financing till now. You should not be keeping bias towards to it, and be open to learn the various other
Mm-hmm.
things coming your way, and it would definitely help you reach your better.
And more importantly, I think all of us would be there. So we'll ensure that the learning
Right.
will happen
Of
to you
course.
guys as well. So we'll be there. You guys don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, for participants who are should know, there's one thing that there's an overlap between both the batches that happens, and definitely there's interactions between the outgoing MUIF team and the incoming MUIF team. And for everyone curious to know, I guess the wallpaper that or background that Aditya is using is of Master Union entrance. So anyone who's not seen the campus and the space, it's a a brief look into it as well. Well, I guess that kind of wraps up most of the questions that we've kind of answered, as well as looked into your experiences with the MUIF and being elected and running the fund as well. And yes, we'll have a lot more sessions in the future. But thanks everyone for joining us, and I'm sure it was very insightful. And thank you to the three of you for kind of taking out the time.